Hi, everybody. It's Jessica DeMassa with WTF Health. What's the future health? We are talking to the who's who of health tech about all the insider information we need to accurately approach the future of health. And so who better to talk to today than the CEO and co-founder of Big Health, Peter Hames. Peter, I understand you are a man who is either you're going to alleviate all of our worries and anxiety with daylight, or you're going to put us to sleep with Sleepio, right? So it's good to have
or
you.
both.
We're both. Either way, we're going to relax. We're going to relax in this great conversation. So
who doesn't need that right now?
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely. So like I said, the two apps that you guys are most famous for are Sleepio and Daylight. And both of those now are on CVS's Digital Health Formulary. And so that's one of the things that caught my eye and made me want to actually chat with you today, was to kind of find out a little bit more about that, about your two solutions, because I do think they're unique in this digital therapeutics mental health space. But before we get to that, I really want to pick your brain about what it's like to be on that digital health formulary. Sleepio has been on there for a year. What have you seen so far? My understanding was this whole point of the formulary was to make it easier for employers to find digital health solutions and also be able to get paid for them. So what has your experience been with Sleepio first? And then if you want to talk a little bit about Daylight being added, I'd love to hear about that too.
Yeah, so CVS has been a great partner to us. Like we, as you know, their point solutions management system got launched last year with us, with just Sleepio. And so it's been a really productive partnership working with them to develop that offering. And as you say, like the primary idea here is that if you look at solutions such as ours, like digital therapeutics that are fully automated, evidence-based, this idea of substituting the molecule for the algorithm, delivering effective care as scalably as pharmacotherapy, but using pure digital means to do so. It has felt to me for a long time that like the most appropriate way to administrate that is alongside other therapeutics, and like PBMs such as CVS Caremark are obviously that's one of the main sort of components of that administration and that the value chain associated with therapeutics. And so, as you say, quite rightly, the initial sort of fundamental idea is by working in partnership with CVS Caremark, can we provide a mechanism for any payer, be it a large employer or fully insured payer, to commission, pay for and administrate digital therapeutics using a lot of the same rails that are being used, they're using their day-to-day to administrate other sorts of therapeutics. So that was like the sort of primary idea. And obviously Sleepio was using Sleepio, our digital therapeutic for poor sleep, as the first example of that on that platform. And yeah, and it has worked incredibly well compared to what we were hoping for. And so, like I say, it's actually like back in only Q3 of last year that we actually went public with that partnership, that relationship. And exactly as we'd hoped, it's radically accelerated the speed at which we can sign up new employers and new other forms of payers. And what we've seen is it's also unblocked and turned no's to yeses, right? So from anyone who's operated in this space for any length of time, will know that so much of success in sort of digital health in general is tactics, not strategy. It's like, how can you get contracted? How the sort of the logistics of how commissioning, contracting, payment works in practice. And what we've seen is that this is an innovation primarily reduces a lot of that friction, like because you're going through a very well-established existing channel. And so, yeah, so far it's been a great success.
I'm so excited to hear that, because I was really excited. I was really excited to hear about that. And at the same time, Express Scripts launched their digital formulary. And it was like these two things kind of happened one right after the other. And I remember thinking, because I'm a big geek and I love the payment model side of this, but I really believe that, that the broad uptake of health technology solutions and digital health solutions, to make that happen, you have to be able to be paid for by the traditional healthcare system at this point. And so this was like a really interesting, let's see if this works. And so from what I'm hearing from you, so far so good with Sleepio.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that really is the, it's been very successful against what we were hoping for. And now being able to add in daylight allows us to offer what we view as like a sort of complete 24-hour solution for mental health. One of the key insights around Sleepio has been that, we've leveraged sleep as a destigmatized Trojan horse into this very difficult, sensitive area of mental health. Like, we've been able to show through now very extensive clinical studies. We're now up to like 52 published papers,
Wow.
13 randomized control trials across both of our products. We've been able to show that, Sleepio's value is not just in alleviating poor sleep, but also huge secondary effects in associated other mental health issues, like so around worry, around mood. And so that has been already like our core value proposition around Sleepio in market. And so now with daylight, we get to fill in the rest of that 24-hour vicious cycle. So worry and anxiety are the most prevalent symptoms of poor mental health. And, one doesn't need to be a psychologist to appreciate the interconnectedness of those issues. That, if you're worried in the day and anxious, you're unlikely to have a good night's sleep. If you've had a bad night's sleep, your mood and your functioning in the daytime is probably going to be impaired. And so that's the way we're presenting it, as like, mental health is a 24-hour problem. We offer front doors for both the day and the nighttime aspects of that.
Do they integrate?
Not like, they are separate solutions right now. And part of the reason for that is because we found that although they tackle very similar underlying mechanisms from a clinical perspective, having a relevant front door is really important in terms of engaging people effectively. And so a solution that, this is for me. Like, oh no, my problem isn't anxiety, my problem is sleep. Then having a front door that is relevant to that problem is we've seen to be really important in terms of engagement. But
I want to hear a little bit more about your engagement, maybe your utilization numbers and how things are going. And one of the things I want to bring up here is a program that you guys rolled out early on in the COVID-19 crisis here, your community access program, which offered for free access to daylight and Sleepio to a number of different companies. So tell me a little bit about that. How has that been going? What kind of utilization numbers have you seen? I mean, I'd love to hear about that initiative.
Yeah, so as you say, like back in March, if we can remember back that far,
Oh my
like
God.
in the before
Feels
times.
like an eternity ago.
Yeah. But we were so naive back then.
We
But no,
really
we had. So yeah, so we even before lockdown in March, so our mission is to help millions back to good mental health. No asterisk, no small print. Like, that is the North Star that all decisions in the company have to line up behind. And so in times of crisis, it's actually really helpful because it makes making the right decisions, much simpler. And so I'm very proud that we were the first of the mental health, anyone providing mental health care, to offer free access, as you say. So even before lockdown was called, in a way that we know best, which is via employers. So we said any employer who wants to provide like rapid mental health support to their populations, just email me, we'll get you set up. We create a very lightweight deployment model that within 24 hours, we can have you up and running for both Sleepio and daylight. And, it went off like a rocket. Like, we saw in 12 weeks, we extended access to 6.5 million lives between the US and the UK. In the US, that included employers like Nike, McDonald's, like Compass Group, like HEB down in Texas, like an incredibly diverse set of different sectors that we were able to like get help out to the people who need it very rapidly. In the UK, all 1.2 million NHS staff got given access. So again, very proud that, the motherland was able to help. So like, we were daylight and Sleepio are two of the 4 products that the Chief People Officer of the NHS announced as being available to NHS staff. So frontline healthcare workers that we could extend care to. So it was, it was a incredibly successful, but from my perspective, incredibly successful, and just very gratifying that this sort of theory of like providing access to care through the model of digital therapeutics could actually be put into practice in reality, like very, very rapidly. So
well, it seems like you're convincing quite a few people. And in fact, you've convinced some investors too. I understand you guys closed a follow-on on your B round in June. Is that right? It's 39 million total fundraising now.
39 million. That's right.
Million. Nice. And you had some new investors in there. I think the round was led by Glide and Morningside Ventures, right?
Yeah.
You had Samsung Next was in there again, Kaiser Permanente in there again. So a great vote of confidence from some very important venture capitalists out there.
Yeah, really, really pleased with how that came together. And yeah, so Gilda, who were the lead alongside, say, Morningside. So really great depth of expertise in, therapeutic investing, medical device investing, and given, as you say, that we already had, involved great investors such as Kaiser Permanente Ventures, Octopus Ventures out of the UK, Index Ventures. This sort of really rounded out that expertise. I think that that means that as we head into this next phase of really scaling our growth, that we have people around the table who've been there, done that, who've seen within the therapy, let's say more traditional therapeutics industry, a huge number of success stories and what's involved in scaling within that industry. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah, I want to talk more about like what your plans are next, because I mean, we can't ignore the fact that this mental health space has experienced an unprecedented boom, not only in utilization during COVID-19, but also in funding. I mean, even Lyra just closed $100 million round. I mean, and this is just the last of a lot of really big rounds for a lot of different companies. Everybody from those that are providing mental health, either coaching or therapy via telehealth, like Ginger, or even Teledoc or Doctor on Demand that offers those services, all the way down to some of those applications like Calm or Talkspace or Headspace. I mean that are doing something similar to kind of meditation and kind of trying to take that into more of a therapeutic area. I want to ask you guys from the big health perspective, who do you see as your competitors?
So yeah, as you said, it's a very fluid and rapidly evolving space, and which is really exciting, right? That actually we've seen real acceleration within maturation of the broadly digital mental health market, and so this is still very live, but I do see there as being a number of different sort of broad roles that different folks are playing in this. And so as you say, on one hand you have folks like Lyra and Ginger who are providing these very fully integrated sort of full stack sort of solutions, answering this issue of having a single point to go to for mental health needs. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got these traditionally coming from the consumer side, like mindfulness, more mental wellness, on that end of the spectrum. And so I think that the way I see our role is kind of fitting in between those two extremes, because on one hand, there will always be a role and a need for human delivered therapy, right? And that is without dispute. And that isn't actually where I see the biggest need. Like if you look at mental health effects between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 people, and of those people who would, if they presented, meet clinical criteria for a disorder, 70% get nothing.
Wow.
Right. So that's the big problem is the silent sufferers. 70% of people get nothing, and the remaining 30% get, they generally are not treated very efficiently and very effectively. But that is a huge, I think it was the mental health gap, right? And so whereas, these true human-driven behavioral health solutions are going to be effective at making the treatment for those 30% much better, and there's a lot of room for improvement there. I'm probably extending care to some extent. Our great skill set is in delivering, engaging the mental health gap of silent sufferers in an efficient way, because we're just pure software. So it means that we can deliver cost-effective, evidence-based care that is backed by clinical, exactly the same level or greater clinical evidence that a drug would be, but we can do it in a way that has all the benefits of a talking therapy.
Okay. And what do you see as, I guess, what's next for you guys? So it's hard to watch this space in particular, mental health. And then I think even what we're seeing from a larger trend, within health tech. I mean, we just saw one of the single biggest mergers of all time with Teladoc and Livongo. And I think we're starting to see others who are looking these larger companies that have kind of emerged, looking to acquire smaller companies and integrate them into platforms that they're building. It's no doubt that we have hit like, I think, peak platformization of health tech here, where everybody's trying to start building out, what it is their single point solution is going to be that addresses multiple different conditions. Do you guys see yourself as an acquisition target? I mean, whether it's for somebody like in a mental health space, or even for somebody who's maybe augmenting a telehealth offering, or what do you think? I know Sean Duffy is on I saw him as an investor in your organization. He's been quite acquisitive lately. Look at you laugh.
I hope Sean's watching this.
Come on.
I hope Sean's watching this. No, so Sean's a good friend, and I think, I wouldn't. It makes both of us laugh when too much is read into that. It's like,
are we laughing all the way to the bank, or are we laughing where?
We're just laughing.
Oh, okay, just laughing.
But no. I think I think like Sean's just very grateful for his continued friendship and support. But sure. I think that I don't think anyone can say like how this space is truly going to evolve. I think it's like a really exciting time, as you say. Definitely consolidation going on. As you say, huge moves like the Livongo, like Teladoc thing. So I couldn't tell you. Like, okay. My focus is on, I think we have an opportunity to build, like a really big business here, and that will have a huge impact. Again, my purpose is to help millions back to good mental health. That is the North Star. But for me, like the analogy I draw is with pharma, right? It's to say, like, software has many of the really powerful like product features that molecules do, in terms of like scalability, consistency, like the ability to gather a really reliable evidence base behind it. And so I think the opportunity here is to grow like businesses and industry within digital therapeutics of the size and scale of Big Pharma. Like, that's the kind of ideal here, is like building the digital J&J, right? So I think, however, as you say, like, who knows, like, as any new therapeutic technology will bring with it its own constraints and own opportunities. And I think that it's going to be an exciting time. We'll see how I'm sure there will be consolidation. I'm sure that, we will be surprised by companies that end up, as everyone was with the pandemic, like end up taking a lead in this new industry. So I don't know about you. I mean, you've been following this for a while, right?
I have, and I was going to ask you. Well, I was going to ask you because I feel like DTX, especially the digital therapeutics category, I feel like it's taken a little bit of a beating lately. We saw Novartis and Payors deal kind of fall apart. The things that have happened with Proteus, which I mean is kind of in a different class, because I feel like it's an ingestible. It was just, I don't know. It's a little bit different, but I think that whole category has been kind of trying to find its way. And I felt like it had a lot of really strong buzz and strong support from Big Pharma at the end of last year. And then I feel like this year it's kind of been a little bit missing, or at least I haven't felt it as strong. What is your experience? And I mean, you're probably at this point, because of, just phone calls that you're on, more in touch with those folks than I am. What's the sentiment you think around Big Pharma and DTX at this point? Do you think it's changed? Is it negative now? Is it still positive? Are they still wondering? What do you think?
So yes, I'm fortunate. I'm the chair of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. So as you said, like the DTA, which the industry body, nascent industry body for the digital therapeutics industry. And I would say that this is, it's what we're seeing is that what we've been talking about in relation to big health is, I think, is what we're seeing in the industry generally, which is that all boats are rising. Like, there's been an accelerated understanding of digital therapeutics and their role they can play as part of the mix of providing coverage against health problems. What I would say is that digital therapeutics are as heterogeneous as healthcare itself. And so there will be a diversity of business models, there'll be a diversity of distribution models, as is appropriate, right? Depending on the specific risks and needs of any given patient group. And so I wouldn't over generalize from any specifics. So to answer your question directly, I think that we see, I mean, Novartis are on the board of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance, and and there's a real collaborative partnership approach right now between different areas of industry that not just companies that started 2 years ago, but these very large pharma companies who are still remaining really interested and engaged in this area. I just think it's natural that we're going to have a few false starts. We're going to experiment. It's just that when you're doing things at the scale of pharma, it's just a lot more visible.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, do you think their appetite is still there to experiment? I mean, like you said, they're on the board of DTA, and that's where it's like, I think now, like for me at least, not being able to physically attend anything and see everybody and talk to those folks, I'm kind of missing that perspective. So when you're hearing from your DTA board meetings, their appetite is still there to experiment with DTX and figure out a way to integrate it in.
Completely. And I think it's just like I say, it's just going to require, we're just going to have to keep going through this like experimentation cycle. And I think, to be clear, like pharma will have more value and kind of be more interested and receive more value in certain contexts than others, right? And so like I think it completely depends on, like I say, first principles. Who are you trying to help, and what is the problem you're trying to help them solve? And the exciting thing for me in the context of digital therapeutics as a new therapeutics technology is we can just start from a blank sheet of paper. Like we can go, all right, however things were done before, let's look at first principles, the constraints and benefits of this technology, and then just work out how we solve that problem as efficiently as possible. So that's why I'm, for example, with the CVS relationship, and I think the opportunity with PBMs in general is to, harness the reach of a lot of these companies to get to patients in a much more scalable and efficient way.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting stuff. Peter, thank you so much for stopping by and letting us pick your brain about all things mental health DTX, especially, diving deep on the future of your company there too for a little bit. I appreciate that. I appreciate your candor and laughter. And here we thought, like we said, you were going to alleviate all of our worries. Only you didn't put us to sleep, at least not yet. All right, Peter, thank you so much. You tried, right?
I tried. Thanks so much, Jessica. Really appreciate it.
No problem. This is Peter Hames. He's the co-founder and CEO of Big Health. The two apps we've been talking about that his company offers are Sleepio to help people achieve better sleep, and Daylight, which helps ease anxiety and worry, which is exactly how we feel right now. I'm Jessica DeMassa. Thanks so much for watching WTF Health. To check out more interviews, please check out my YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/WTF Health. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for joining us.